Well, greetings, and welcome to another special edition of It's Not Work, It's Fun. And when people ask us why we say special edition is because life is short and everything becomes a special edition. But this can be a special edition today because we are really into spring and the warm weather, and Bernie's already been working feverishly on getting her stuff planted, so let's check in with Bernie right now and see what it is we can learn now that the warm weather is really here.
Hi everybody, and welcome back to another edition of It's Not Work, It's Fun. I am indeed Master Gardener Bernie Lonay, and we're going to be talking about marigolds today. And we're going to be talking about onion bulbs and cigarettes. We'll be right back, so stay tuned.
Well, from the gardening capital of the world, in reality, it's downstairs at City Hall, but we won't let that secret out. Well, anyway, so some of the people who have helped us out in a long time, for a long time, of course, have been the Murphys, who are back in business with their flashy new station in Rib Mountain, and there's even going to be a Burger King coming in there come June or so. We've got an email address, but more importantly, what we've got for y'all is a P.O. box that will flash on the screen about 5 times. So that's the one you use. Write Bernie a letter with your questions, comments, anything else that's on your mind, and your letter or topic might make the show. I was going to say the cut. All right. Enough babbling here. One more time, our friends, the Murphys. Dennis is design service, features graphic engineering and blueprint services. So, let's get back to Bernie and see what we can learn today. Bye-bye.
Okay, we're back. I'm going to get a much better shot of the Camel cigarettes. And it really doesn't have to do with the brand. Whatever cigarettes you have that you want to use as a natural fungicide, fungus fighter, is the stronger the brand, the better use it is. And this is all before it's lit up. When it's heated up, like if you smoke it and then you try to use the tobacco that's in the near the cigarette butts, that'll actually cause a fusarium wilt, which will get on. That's a fungus. It'll get on a lot of things. But if you use a tobacco product before it's lit up, before it's used by anything, becomes a tremendous organic fungicide that is used in the plant world all the time. Okay, so let's. I'm gonna go back a little bit though. First of all, I want to get a really nice shot of these marigolds. Now, marigolds are a natural insecticide, and in front of the marigolds here is a package of flower seeds called morning glories. And one of the reasons that people talk about organic stuff all the time is because before we ever heard of lawn garden centers, before they ever came along, you had to do something the farmers had to do something to fight off the insects of the diseases that would affect their crops, because years and years ago, you couldn't just jump in a truck and go down the highway and get a bunch of insecticide or make up they had to do something. They had to figure out what it was that was natural. And so over the years, they discovered that marigolds actually is a tremendous insecticide. If you plant among your onion bulbs, okay, and I didn't happen to bring any onion sets in with me today, but now is the right time of the year to actually plant onion bulbs outside, okay? Outside in your ground. It is May 1st, and you need to get them in the ground so they get the whole cool month of May. And they get the natural moisture, no matter what moisture it comes from, if it comes from dew, rain, snow, ice, whatever. You might have to kind of cover them up a little bit, but if you plant a seed, a marigold flower seed, in between your onion bulbs, your onion sets, okay? A set is just another word for onion bulb, all right? If you do that, and they come up and grow at the same time, or some people will even put little tiny started plants in there in between the seeds, what you are doing is keeping away the little white flies, okay? You're going to keep those away. They can't stand being around marigold plants. Now, with my tomatoes and my peppers, a lot of times, most definitely the onions and so things like Swiss chard, leafy lettuce, they're really, the little white flies will get on there, okay? You plant some marigold seeds and they all come up and they flower and they just absolutely keep those things away. They won't go anywhere near it, okay? And if the plant, or if the white flies should happen to land on the marigolds, they'll just die. They'll suck up the stuff out of the leaves and they'll die. It's a great insecticide. It is organic. A lot of people say, well, I just get the stuff right off the shelf. What you don't know is what you're doing is you're buying liquid marigolds that have been, the resveratrol that's in there, and pyrethrin is another insecticide. What you don't know is that they've already extracted the stuff from the marigolds and made it into an insecticide. That's what that's what you're paying for. You're paying for the marketing, the bottle, the labeling, and to buy a package of marigold seeds and grow those right along with your plants. Plant them right in the spring, right along with if your green beans or whatever it is. The bigger, the better. Now, some of the Cracker Jack marigolds have an awful lot of, shall we say, insecticide nectar in them, and they'll do really good. But the bigger the marigolds, the more nectar you're going to get, and they're going to protect more of the plant, especially tomato plants, which, if you've grown tomato plants, you know that they get filled with insects. Colorado potato beetles, any chewing kind of insect, any slug, any white fly, any little tiny, anything that flies around or sucks on the leaves or anything like aphids, any of that stuff. And the more you plant the marigolds with things, you just take a package of seeds out with you. If you want to plant your beans or whatever it is, carrots or whatever, just stick a seed in there. Every once in a while, just stick a seed in there. Now, the thing about onions, though, is that once you put an onion in the ground, you cannot disturb it. They're, you might call cycle onions, okay? What happens is they go nuts. They start going, I don't want to be moved. I don't want to be weeded. Don't touch me. I don't like you. And that's what they're going to do. What they're going to do is they're going to react and not grow. The growth will be stunted, or they'll just bolt right to seed. Heat will make an onion bolt right to seed. But if you put it under stress by all of a sudden actually moving it, you say, maybe the bulb is in there like this, and then all of a sudden it's tilted like this, it just won't grow, and it won't get any bigger, and you won't get an onion. You just take the bulb out of the ground and eat that. Or whatever, or anything that's growing that is invading into the ground, that's boring a hole into your onion. You kind of, like a little weevil or whatever, any corn borer or whatever, a grub or whatever. If you plant a marigold, and another flower that actually does give off natural insecticide is the geranium. Most people don't plant geraniums along with their stuff. It's really easy to use the marigold seeds. If you do anything like that, and then you're really careful about weeding, and you place your finger around the onion bulb so it doesn't move, and then pull the weeds out, that's fine. The onions will actually go cycle on you. They won't grow. Well, it's kind of tough to think of an onion as being a cycle bulb, but they are, okay? And that's what happens. Normally what happens is they'll go right to seed, or they'll flower right away. They won't get any bigger. They just won't grow. They'll just stay in the ground. And you pick it out 2 months later, and it's still the same onion set. It won't have done anything, okay? And one of the things that is really neat about any of these marigolds, they're usually cheap. They're the cheapest flowers that you can find. And any of the lawn and garden centers. Now, I have a bunch of my marigolds. I have them growing in many, many different pots at home. In my cold frames, I've got some really big cold frames at home. I fill them up, and even gophers. Even striped gophers and squirrels and everything that gets in there. Oh, this one's kind of, I don't know, that must have gotten knocked over in the wind or so. I don't know what happened to that one. But at any rate, or maybe somebody brushed against it with their hand or their leg. And what you do is you just clip that off, and you can bury that right in the ground, and any plant that it's around, it will protect. Unless it's a really huge tomato plant, and then you're going to have to kind of have a couple of them growing there. But even gophers, they will not touch marigolds. They can't stand the taste. They won't go anywhere around them. Now, of course, if you have a dog or a cat, say you got a pesky neighbor's dog that keeps coming over and going to the bathroom in your yard, they'll kind of sniff it, but then they'll go to the bathroom on it too. It won't necessarily keep them away, but any kind of chewing animal, a mole, a mouse, a gopher, a striped gopher, pocket gopher, chipmunk, whatever, it'll keep all of them away. Now, should you plant everything with marigold seeds? If you want to, sure. You know, they make a great, nice little flower bed arrangement. You know, they're very easy to grow. You can grow them from seed. Just pop the seeds in the ground in the early part of May. Even if it gets a little bit of cold, they're pretty darn hardy. They're actually a flower that actually originated from Mexico, believe it or not. And one of the things that happens is that even though it might get really, really cold, if you give the marigolds just a little bit of protection, they'll make it through a lot of cold nights, believe it or not. If it gets super, super cold out there and it's like an ice storm, you'll want to cover them up, okay? Usually what I'll do is I'll put a piece of plastic over, you know, like one of my flower beds or whatever, and then I'll put blankets and bed sheets over those. And not only do I not want them getting the very, very cold ice and the moisture, but I also don't want them to get cold, so that'll help them. And if you start stuff out, you know, say you get pumpkins or squash or, you know, something started early, throw a blanket over it, it'll be fine. Once things like pumpkins and squash and zucchini get established and they get a little bit bigger, they fight off the insects by themselves. But it's okay to have some marigolds around them too. This is for the people who have asked about, you know, what is organic. This is completely safe. You can touch this. It won't, you know, it smells a little funny, but it's not going to hurt you like maybe spraying some kind of malathion or some kind of diazinon or something like that. And it won't affect your lungs like some of that stuff will. Now, I do use a lot of different things, but I use them very, very carefully. I do not use them all the time. I'm very, very careful about what I use and how I use it in the application. I take it very seriously because I use this stuff all the time. I use a lot of things all the time, and I don't want myself getting sick from it. I don't want to suffer from that. I want to save myself those headaches later on down the road. So I pay attention to that. And what I had before was I had some Camel cigarettes up here before. And Camels, it says Turkish and domestic blend. Camels are actually, let's see if we can get a good shot of that. Camels are actually very, very strong. Any Turkish blend tobacco, if it's the real Turkish blend from that part of the world, tobacco, it's going to be really, really strong. What you do is you break up, if you've ever broken up a cigarette and it's before it's smoked, you do not smoke it. You break it up with your fingers, put it in the water, and then you have to strain it out. It'll turn brown. It makes a tremendous fungicide. And that's a natural one, too. Now, a lot of people say, well, it can't be that natural anymore, mainly because of all the stuff that's added to the tobacco now. If you could get some fresh tobacco leaves from the southern part of the state of Wisconsin, and there are tobacco fields down there, down around Sun Prairie, Madison, people grow chewing tobacco, and they grow them in the state of Wisconsin. It's becoming a pretty big crop. If you get some of those fresh leaves, and trust me, you'll want to have gloves on and kind of hold your nose if you handle that. So all you need is a couple of leaves. You can make just tons and tons and tons of fungicide. And it works. It works on Fusarium wilt. It works on black spore. That's the stuff that flies through fire blight. It'll work on that. Prevent that. It won't cure it. It'll prevent it. But you can't use the stuff that's already been smoked. That will cause a fungus. That will let other funguses get in there. Let's see if this is a pretty good shot here. Hopefully there's not too much glare there. We don't have a monitor today, so we got to kind of guess at the shots. One of the things you're going to do is you're going to take this out of here. A lot of people say, and then I don't want to break this because I want to keep it for demonstration, but you break it apart and you put it into some water. There's no water in here, and then what you do is you just stir it around, just let it sit. Stir it around a little bit, let it sit for a couple hours. And then you mix it in, you can just take a little bit, all it takes is a little bit, like a couple of capfuls. Mix it into a gallon of water and you get yourself a tremendous fungicide. Now, a lot of people say, well, geez, not only do I do that trick, but then I soak the flower heads. You take the flower head, this one that's kind of tipped over here, take that flower head, put that in there too. Just let it sit, let it kind of marinate, you almost might say. so that smell actually starts to permeate a little bit. And then you can make yourself a spray bottle. Well, here's the only spray bottle right here. I'm going to use that 32-ounce spray bottle. Put a couple drops in there, just a tiny, tiny bit in the bottom. Fill it up with some distilled water, or just regular water. Distilled water is actually better for plants than regular tap water is. And make yourself mark the bottle, fungicide, little kids do not drink, whatever. And spray down your plants. It's really good for house plants. It's really good for your garden plants. It's good for any kind of started plant out there. Okay, now let's take a look at the picture of the morning glories here. It's a mixed package. And a lot of people don't realize that when you get a package of morning glories, it's not that, it doesn't take that long for them to germinate, but the seed is really, really hard. You sit there and you kind of crack it with your fingernails and it doesn't do anything. You have to break that outer shell first. And the only way to do that, really, to soften it up, is to soak it for a day previous to starting the seed. It's just some regular water, just some water. A lot of people use tea water. I use tea water. You take a little bit of tea that you've made for yourself and maybe get a little extra. Pour it in a cup, put the seeds in there, and then let them soak up that water. They'll get real soft, and then you stick a pin through there. And other seeds that are really, really tough and big, those are the seeds that are hard to germinate, like a nasturtium seed is really hard to germinate. And if you don't do that, the only other way of doing that is to put them in a little tiny pot, say this size here. That's about 4.5 to 5 inches. It's a little, not 6 inches. But it's not 4 either. But the only way to do that is just to soak those pots consistently until you see a little tiny plant coming up. Other than that, you got to break the seed. I've known people who put the seed on a board, took a hammer, and went whack like that. And no, you don't want to do that because the seeds fly all over. You might miss, hit your finger. And you also might, break the board or, whatever. And then you could make a mess too. You don't want to do that either. Okay, so then what you need to do is not only break the seed, but then right after it's broken, see, all the protection for the seed is gone. So if you have something that started outside and you notice chipmunks, squirrels, gophers, whatever, are getting into your cold frames, they will take those little seeds, the ones that are big, hard, and round. They'll dig them right out of your pots. If you start them outside, if you don't protect them, okay, say you got some in a cold frame, right? If you don't protect them, what happens is they'll dig them right out of the pot. They'll take them and they'll bury them. And then you're out your seeds or your started seeds. Also, if you pre-start sweet corn, which I have pre-started sweet corn from year after year after year. If the neighbors don't figure out what's going on, and they steal some of your pre-started sweet corn, because that's happened to me a couple times, there'll be the little animals that will get in there and they'll run off with your sweet corn. Sweet corn, the seeds, when they're soaking and starting to grow, they're very, very tasty for these animals. They'll just dig right through there and they'll eat them up on the spot. Squirrels will do the same. I've seen all kinds of different animals get into all kinds of different things. And even crows. If you don't have your cold frames covered up with glass at night and like maybe a screen during the day to where nothing can touch it, there'll be all kinds of animals and birds that will get in there and just, they'll bite off the started little plants. I have petunias I got some really nice petunias growing in the cold frame right now. And I noticed that gophers were trying to figure out, they were on top of the glass, they're trying to figure out how to get inside. And if you don't have it kind of blocked off, like a real thick piece of plastic or on some bricks or something, they'll tunnel underneath and go right up through your cold frame. You just got to sit it on the ground. They'll tunnel underneath that. And that's why I have big, thick sheets of plastic that don't taste very good. And also I do have rocks in some of them, just really small rocks. So that it's tough for them to get up there. And they'll tunnel right through, and they'll get up that way, and then they'll eat everything off. And they'll actually make off with your seeds. They'll take, I've seen them carry the little started pots, not pots, but plants and seeds right in their mouth. And they'll carry it away on you. And there's a lot of birds too, especially the songbirds are coming back now. And the nicer the songbirds sing, the more devastating they can be, especially with seeds. If they spot a seed like laying right, it's not covered up by soil or something's coming up, man, they'll just dive in there, So you got to protect from that. That's why people have covered greenhouses. That's why people have protection on cold frames where they actually have covers where they can do that stuff. And that's something you got to watch out for. Now, this particular episode today was for a few people that actually asked about regular organic insecticides. And to wrap it all up, yes, marigolds are tremendous. Like I said before, a lot of insecticides that you buy right off the shelf already have this stuff in it. It's liquid marigolds is what it is. And they actually use almost every part of this plant except for the roots. If they use the roots and they get dirty, and of course, you gotta, when you make your little marinade, with the marigolds and the cigarettes, if you want, or just marigolds or just the cigarettes, you got to remember you don't smoke them first. What happens is you got to strain them. You got to run it through the strainer just so you get the liquid, because you don't want to spray something and have a little tiny piece of flour plugging up your sprayer. You don't want that. Okay, now I'm going to talk about one more subject. I think I'm probably getting kind of close here. I'll wait for my music to come on. That's all right. I'll answer a couple more questions. Somebody was talking to me about a fogger before, and a lot of people say, well, geez, I don't like the summertime coming on, because what happens is there's so many bugs that get in the house, and then I got to use one of those foggers. Well, you got to be really, really careful when you use those things, because some of them are very, very powerful. And again, not only do they sell the really, strong insecticides like the malathion, okay, and a lot of them are sulfur-based also, whereas you got to actually shut all your windows and make sure your outside doors are shut and locked so that nobody can go in, and you don't want to be in there either. And then you rip that tab off, and then you just let it go out, and you got to leave for about 4 or 5 hours. Or sometimes they say overnight too, depending how many you use, how many you buy, and how big your house is. Well, a lot of people say, well, I do that. If you have houseplants, and you want the houseplants to be insect free, have some marigolds grown inside. Then you won't have to use a fogger. Now, a fogger is something where we get inundated by, say, ladybugs. A couple of years back, more than a couple of years, probably 5 years ago now, where everybody's houses on the insides were just absolutely filling up with ladybugs. I mean, we had a problem with ladybugs. And there's a guy that told me that they walked into the house and one whole wall, and the entire wall was filled with ladybugs. They couldn't even see the paint. It was so thick they thought there were just thousands of them in there. They probably were right. They had to shop vac everything, okay? Now, an inundation like that, and the marigolds aren't going to stop it. It won't be enough. But if you've got a little insect problem, you don't want it to get any worse, put some marigolds. Put some marigolds by your houseplants. And there's another thing you can do if you grow mint. Now, I have a lot of mint grown around my property, and I use it. I make, we not only make mint tea, which is really good, but I lay the dried out sprigs and the plants right around the base of the house, so that the ants have a real problem getting in. If they're already in, that's not going to do any good. But if you notice some hills going up in your yard, put hot pepper, black pepper around the outside of your house. And mint is a tremendous insect repellent. Have you ever seen a mint leaf that's filled with aphids? No. You know why? Because it's another repellent. It won't kill them, but it is a tremendous repellent. And another flower that actually is the coleus. and that's actually in the mint family. It's a very, very good repellent. You've got coleus growing by some regular, say you have a pothos vine or a dicentra or something, or dieffenbachia or, sansevieria or something like that. You have those things growing right there. They won't get any insects on them. It'll keep them clean, okay? And a lot of people, more and more people, we're not talking about people who want to, get in touch with Mother Nature and, go organic and they love PETA and all that stuff. We're talking about people who want to use less and less of that stuff because they know it's going to make them sick. There's more and more people who are using organic methods who have gone to the lawn garden centers and bought the stuff off the shelf because they know that they have paid some kind of a price for it already. If you want to keep your costs down, this is a great way to do it. If you want to go out to the lawn garden center and buy something right off the shelf, well, sure, certainly be my guest. Buy whatever you want. I don't care what you buy. But if you absolutely want to keep your costs down and keep your health up, this is one way to do it, okay? Now, one more thing. If you use one of those foggers, don't be like the guy that I knew several years ago. Had a small house, bought about 10 of them, and lit all 10 of them. He blew up his house because he lit every one of the foggers. He had a basement. I think it was just a first floor and no second floor. And he bought too many of them. He wound up blowing up his house. That's how bad it was. He started the neighbors' houses on fire. The fire department had to be called in. He started the gas lines on fire. Man, this guy, he caused a lot of trouble because his house was filled with bugs. He wanted to get rid of them, but you don't go overboard like that. As soon as you rip the tab off of one of those things, you better run because, man, the smell of that is going to make you sick. And then you come back, you go away for, I don't know, good 6 hours normally. They'll say maybe 3 or 4 hours in the package, but I would make it more like 6. Go away, go shopping, go have some fun, go to a movie, something like that. Come back and immediately open up all the windows, let everything ventilate and, get, fresh air in there, turn your fans on, stuff like that. Because I've noticed that with more and more mild winters, it seems like we're having, the bugs start coming back to life earlier and earlier, and now there's a not only West Nile virus that's coming back to life, which is carried by mosquitoes. Even malaria is coming back to this country because the mosquito population is up. With more and more winters that aren't lasting quite as long, earlier springs, we are getting more bugs like that. And they're detrimental bugs too. So keep that in mind. I'm Master Gardener Bernie Lonay. Until next time, be green and remember, it's not work. It's fun. It's fun. It's fun. Bye.
Well, that's the key word. Always remember, it's fun, fun, fun. All right, we got to pick up the pace here from the gardening capital of the world. We brought you another wild adventure of It's Not Work, It's Fun. One more time, our friends the Murphys got their new business open on 51 and N. They're doing fine, and they're even going to have a Burger King for all you health food nuts. They'll be coming in June. All right, we had the email on the screen, but more importantly, we had the P.O. Box on the screen about 5 times through the show. That's the one you use. Write a letter, Bernie, and she'll talk about your areas of interest. One more time, the Murphys, 51 and N, Dennis's Design Service, features drafting, engineering, and blueprint services. All right, that's enough out of me. Let's see if we can't get on out of here. It's Not Work, It's Fun is the brainchild of Master Gardener Bernie Lonay. All right, adios, amigos.